Like I wanted to do something like a brick and mortar, and then more, not in the mission, not in the Soma or something like that. More like, just like an underserved neighborhood.
That was Radio Africa owner and chef Eskender Aseged. Welcome to Storied San Francisco. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt. In this episode, Eskender picks up where he left off in part 1. He describes his evolution from working with world-renowned chefs to starting his own underground restaurant at his home in the Mission. From there, he did a couple of pop-ups around town before landing his very own brick-and-mortar spot at 3rd and Oakdale in the Bayview. Radio Africa Kitchen is open for pickup every Tuesday between noon and 3 p.m. Please go to radioafricakitchen.com for the menu and contact info. Here's Eskender.
So that's the story. It goes on. Jeremiah Tower brushed it and then went to, it was Joyce Goldstein, really put all the heart and soul in me. And then the final inspiration came in early 2000 when I worked at the Campton Place with Daniel Humm, the famous chef now in New York. Mm-hmm. And with him was another, just a different level, completely modern, fine thinking in terms of, it's different. With that, I learned the idea of subtlety, the idea of just looking at each ingredient separately, the idea of actually minimalism versus just all kinds of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. We don't just put anything in it, there is a reason, behind it. And he was one of the most confident and brilliant chefs I ever worked with. And then with that, in the early 2000s, I started my own underground restaurant. Oh. In fact, while he was a chef, and I happened to be one of his good friends at the time, we used to hang out together, and he used to come to my house and eat, my food, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's the birth of Radio African Kitchen. Okay. In 2003, 2004, and then really from 2005. I think 2005 when I went sort of on a full time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was in your home or?
In my home.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it started in my mission. We call it Mission Farms because I had also a garden where I grew a lot of vegetables and.
I love it. Can you say where that was?
It's on York Street. York Street and in the Mission next to Bryant.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I love that.
A couple of blocks where Flower and Water and all that. Sure. That area. That back in the day, that area was just, there was nothing really. Right. There was only one cafe, Atlas Cafe, and then there's
Atlas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So that's when I started to do experimental food, purely self-taught, and just trying to condense and bring all the things I grew up with. And then I was also traveling in the 90s. I traveled to different countries, Italy, Spain, Turkey, Morocco, Israel, that kind of stuff. So trying to
all over the Mediterranean.
Exactly, all over the Mediterranean, and all the travels I did were mostly food related. Right. So I ate and talked about food while I was there.
Oh man, I want to hear about that trip those trips because that's could be its own podcast.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, each place you went is
absolutely.
So many stories. Wow.
Absolutely, there's so many stories, so many just small details, and just the food, the food in some of those countries, especially Turkey, Israel, and Morocco, are just unbelievable. Yeah. I know we talk about Italy, France, and Spain, which are great too. But these guys, Turkish food and Israeli food and Moroccan food are just unbelievable.
Would you agree food is a big expression of culture?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's where one big place we all connect.
Absolutely. In fact, when I used to do the underground restaurant in my mission home, we try to get the eclectic people. We try to discourage big groups. The most you could come is in 4.
Okay.
We sometimes people try to make a reservation for 8 because we kind of only. In the beginning, we had 15 to 25 people.
Oh.
And then eventually it grew to in the 30s and the 40s.
Whoa.
Because I have a garden, I put, big table, I have a, fire going on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We try to have all aspects of life to come to that table. Mm-hmm. So for that reason, I think we used to limit, people trying to come in a group, and then we try to also ask them what they do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're a teacher, we're an artist, we're lawyers, we're architects, that kind of stuff. So the more variety it is, the better it is. I think it makes the conversation really beautiful.
Absolutely.
And we learn from it. It's kind of like a small country versus,
Sure.
just a diverse country versus just a one-dimensional group of people.
I noticed you were saying we with the underground restaurant.
Yeah.
Who else was involved with you?
That's a very good question. I like to say I was we.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Even though I'm the one who brought it up and stuff like that, I think it would not happen without the other people.
Got it.
So I always talked, we live here. I only live there.
Yeah. I think they call that the royal we.
Well,
something
I think,
like that. Something.
I think maybe it's an Ethiopian thing or something. You try to avoid, I did this.
Got it.
When we go to a restaurant, one of the things that annoys me is, I have a special for you, the waiter says. You do have special, where is it?
Right.
Kind of versus, even the chef should say, we did this. I think it's kind of, not to criticize, but because it takes a group of people to accomplish that.
It's more communal.
Yeah,
communal effort.
So I always say, also we work together. I remember there was a couple of people who worked closely with me. I used to sort of tell them or just direct them, please do not say I work for him. We work together, kind of.
Right.
So it's kind of avoids the me version of it, and then we talk about the art.
I love that.
That way, people don't focus, the chef or because that was also part of the movement was trying to avoid the star out of the thing. So everyone is a star there. Mm-hmm. The people who are eating, if we have a dishwasher or the line cook, it doesn't matter. We did it together. I do, the same thing we do here is we don't have a dishwasher. We all do the dishwasher. Yeah.
I love that.
We do the cleaning. So in fact, I like cleaning. I do, in the restaurant, I love the dishwashing, because it's, I know how to organize it. So, but anyway, to answer your question, if it was too specific, I'm the solo runner, but, without all these people around me, it would not, be possible. So I say we.
And how often were you doing these dinners underground?
In the beginning, the first 6 or maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 months, I believe, it was every Thursday.
Got it.
Because it was a bold move back in the early 2004. I just told, my friends and acquaintances, I said, hey, you guys, now I've been doing this, occasionally here. Starting next week, there is a restaurant in my house every Thursday, rain or shine. We could get 2 people, 20 people, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I think part of the success, in fact, I'm glad you asked this, because part of the success was the continuity without being discouraged how many people showed up or not. Mm-hmm. We just did it,
Right.
like, meaning like every Thursday, got all the stuff, all the vegetables. Some of the vegetables actually, most of the vegetables were available in my garden for up to 20, 30 people.
Wow.
Because I was growing a lot because, just, big growing. And then I will get all the, fish or the meat. So start prepping and then, cook and we eat together. And then in the beginning, at the first 7, 8 months, there was no price. It was a self-price to stuff.
Nice.
So the whole idea was pretty organic and encouraging, even though I wasn't a good cook, I was like, because I was still learning, so some of it didn't come out right, But, people, it's like home cooking. So it was every Thursday.
And I mean, I have a lot of questions that all kind of relate to the same thing. When did you have the idea to take it out of your home? When did you start calling it anything? Was Radio Africa the first name, and where did you get that name? That's a lot of questions, but
It's actually,
but I feel like they are all kind of related, right?
Yeah,
When did it go from every Thursday in your garden and just 4 people at your apartment to this?
Well, I want to answer the first thing first,
Sure.
which is the name. The name, it did not have a name in the beginning because I did not know what to name it, because it's kind of very, I'm very finicky in terms of naming something either egocentric or too simplistic or too flashy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So just let it happen. I just have a restaurant, I said. And then eventually people were asking me within a few months, what do you want to call it? And then that's where the term Radio African Kitchen came in when someone asked me about what my childhood was in Ethiopia. And then I was telling a story how it was in Ethiopia because, like I said, it was a pretty minimal entertainment there. The only entertainment we had was just radios or just oral story live from friends, from fathers or grandfathers or mothers, grandmothers, and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I remember really having that nostalgic moment of like as kids, like from 6, 7, 8, all the way 10, like after school or after work. We worked all the time, so we used to get together and share some snacks such as roasted garbanzo beans or roasted barley. All of them, of course, homemade that day or that afternoon, and sharing laughters and comparing each other's. So that's where the name Radio African Kitchen came in. As we were doing those things, we were also listening to some African radio, either African music or African soccer match or something like that.
Okay.
So that's how the name came in. And
it came when you were still having the dinners in your home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the beginning it did not have it, and then eventually, the Radio African Kitchen, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then when it came out of my house was one of the most important aspect of it, not just for me, just for the Bay Area chefs too. Mm-hmm. When it was becoming a little bit of popular, like within, I guess, 5-6 months, I was worried what my neighbors, because we're trying to be sustainable, because we're trying to also, as we were doing the restaurant, we're trying to be sustainable, green. That sustainability implies not only the way we cook and how we get, but everything else. The ecology, the people we work with, our neighbors, the people who eat it, and then the waste goes out and all that stuff. So at the time when we have that discussion, a lot of the people who came to my my underground restaurant was actually restaurateurs, cafe owners,
Right.
artists, and that kind of stuff, or architecture, something more like the people wanted to experience something. Mm-hmm. So one of the person was, now she's a good friend of mine. Her name is Meg Wiskant she just had opened a cafe called Velo Rouge Cafe.
Oh yeah.
Velo Rouge Cafe was
On
Arguello and
Arguello.
Fulton, up in the up in the avenues kind of thing. And I credit Meg for the pop-up idea. She said, "How about taking out of your house and then maybe I just open a cafe?" She wrote me this really nice postcard, and then I thought she was maybe kind of flirting or something like that. And that idea kind of and then she followed through. She was like, "Oh, maybe that is a good idea. Why don't we try it?"
Yeah.
So that was the first pop-up idea, and from that it became really well known. And then immediately we add up from Thursday. We added Fridays too. So every Thursday and Friday, starting I think in 2006, I believe, all the way to 2008, something like a couple of years.
Okay.
We did it there, and that's how it went.
Okay. And then, how did this happen?
Oh, this happened, well, the progression is after I did Velo Rouge, and I was growing out of Velo Rouge because Velo Rouge was a small place, hardly start, we hardly start 30, 35 people. It's a small place. We really packed it up,
Yeah.
So another cafe owner, Jason Paul, when they did the coffee bar in the Mission. I don't know if you know the coffee bar, Florida and Mariposa. It's no longer there. Next to the KQED building.
Right.
In the Mission.
Yeah, I only know there's a Starbucks over there.
Yeah, well, exactly. You're right. The Starbucks has been there for 25 years, something like that.
That's the most out-of-place Starbucks I've ever seen.
But around the corner was another really top-notch cafe called, it opened, I think, in 2008, I believe, 2008 or something, 2009. While they're building it, Jason approached me, "Hey, we heard about you." And then by the time, I think I got a few press here and there. He asked me, "Hey, would you be willing to do a pop-up?" And then again, just finish it up first. Maybe we'll discuss one of it. Oh, it would be finished in 2-3 months. Okay, let's talk about it. And then I was living also just within 3 blocks, Mariposa, Florida versus I'm 19th in New York. And it's pretty convenient. And then I did that. That sits up to 80 people.
Oh, wow, okay.
But the problem with that was they did not have a kitchen, so I had to use. So,
that's tricky.
But as an underground restaurateur, one thing I learned in terms of the cooking strategy was, also trying to pass it on to other youngsters who were working with me, was the idea of we're ready to do it as long as it's legit, meaning there's a running water, the safety issue is thing. We have hot plates and other methods of cooking, So I remember the first night we did there, people waiting up to 3-4 hours because we were just backed up,
Wow.
because we have 80 people trying to eat and just on hot plates, But people don't understand. So that's really where it took off a little bit because there was a bigger place. We had music too. We had DJs and live music.
Awesome.
And there, it was kind of the really nice space and energy.
And then,
And
was
then-
this next, or?
The story of the baby was, which is again another lucky natural progression. And I think in 2010, I get a call from the mayor's office, and then say, "Hey, we heard you do this underground sustainable green, kind of good thing. Do you want to open a restaurant?" Say, "Where?" I said, Bayview. I say, "Absolutely," because I was actually looking at places like West Oakland. I wanted to do something like a brick and mortar, and a more, not in the Mission, not in the Soma or something like that. More just an underserved neighborhood. So when I got that opportunity, I said, yes, absolutely, except I don't have the kind of money to open.
Right.
And then that's where it came in. Oh, you don't have to worry about that one because, apparently they were trying to attract small businesses, especially minority, business people, trying to entice to open
On Third Street.
exactly
Or around.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently I've heard they've asked other chefs to black chefs or something, or other minority chefs. They passed up on it, but I was just excited.
Yeah.
And then we worked out the logistics, where they build the thing, and then I fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The very important blank of
Absolutely.
food.
And I was so excited because, for me, that was my preach in the beginning was the whole idea of Radio Africa, starting from the ground up was more of trying to benefit everyone around it. And we did that for the most part. And, it's still going for it, yeah.
How would you describe the food that you make? I was just telling Michelle on the walk over here.
Uh-huh.
I thought that correctly, that you're from Ethiopia, but I was describing the food to her, and I was like, it's not like any Ethiopian restaurant that I've ever been to. There's some similarities in some dishes, but how would you describe the food?
That's true. I am from Ethiopia, but the way I describe my food is kind of African diaspora food that's influenced by a variety of things, such as my experience living in the Bay Area and my experience traveling around the world, and then also my experience relating what I knew in Ethiopia through my travel to where we are right now. So, in other words, it's kind of the evolution. People say, is this what is that thing called when you mix things? It was very popular in the 90s. Fusion.
Oh, fusion, yeah.
Not that I would be offended. Fusion is kind of a little bit of forced idea,
Yeah.
People, I remember back in the day, there was quite a few restaurants, Italian and Thai, and it's that kind of fusion.
Yeah.
It's not really that at all. It really comes naturally in my head, and then I'm trying to translate that through food, meaning we have plenty of food ideas in the Bay Area, the produces, the grains, the fish, the meat, and you name it. And what I wanted to do is, it's really Californian food, but influenced by ancient tradition or ancient or other countries' methods or spices. But the food we eat is really Californian because I believe in. I've always believed in in the local movement, although I don't use that term anymore because it's kind of like a little overrun.
Yeah.
Because I just
and it's just also common sense.
Yeah, exactly.
If you live somewhere like we do,
exactly.
At least.
We're eating actually the same food, just different flavors, basically.
Yeah.
For example, most of the produce are sourced in the farmers market, and you get so many ideas as I pick up. Oh, this would be good with preserved lemon. This would be good with a touch of Burberry. This would be good, with a little bit of harissa. So you just the lightness, the weather, the season, it all determines what it goes. It's kind of being a DJ, you can't just come and play a pre-selected music. You come, you just see the vibe, that's the chef too. I look at, I collect all the ingredients first, and then even though the menu says this, but it kind of change, the menu is kind of a guidance, kind of like we're saying, oh, this is what we're cooking, but it's not really deep down. It's different things that goes on. There's change that goes on because ultimately, if I go to a restaurant, I just want to eat delicious food. I don't have, the idea of choosing is kind of limited, when we go to someone's house in Ethiopia, we just have a variety of tasting menu coming out, on a big platter. We eat together. And to me, that's what I wanted to show. Although in the tradition of the American tradition, we also wanted to have some kind of guidance, like having a menu. Here's your chicken jambalaya, but the chicken jambalaya, is it really made the same every day? No, it's not.
Right.
Sometimes we add kale, sometimes, Swiss chard, spinach, other things like shiso, sorrel, whatever we find there. And just sometimes a little bit of preparation. Now it's kind of like a little too intense. Maybe today, like we could do harissa, maybe nothing else in there, just a little, chili flakes and that, so every day it's different.
Can I ask you, now that you've been living and working and doing a business for 30 plus years in San Francisco, what is it that you love about San Francisco? You talked a little bit about it when you talked about moving here,
absolutely.
But now that you have that experience.
What do I love about San Francisco? That's kind of interesting question, because I want to tie it to what you were saying earlier while you guys are doing this podcast, how you're trying to coordinate. I think it's the people, of course, given the weather, the geography is, but I think you could get other weather and other geography comparable to this one. But I think it's the people, the culture, the openness, and the possibilities, and the inspiration I get, like people like you, is still what's holding me like a glue to stay in San Francisco. I thought about every few years, I thought about, am I missing out something? Like New York is, it was a possibility because, just another dynamic city, but too big and then too hectic probably. And Seattle, I thought about it kind of too smallish, that kind of stuff. So I think the Bay Area will be, when I talk about San Francisco, actually the Bay Area, including, Oakland, sure. Berkeley and others. It's the people, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the art, the music that I still love about it.
That was Eskender Aseged. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, we'll journey to the outer Richmond to meet Yuka Ioroi, co-owner and beverage manager at Cassava. Please join us for episode 32 next week. And don't forget to check out our small business page, up now on our website. Music for Storied San Francisco is by Otis McDonald. Photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. The show is hosted and produced by me. Michelle and I have produced more than 120 episodes over the last 3 years, and you can find them all over at our website, storiedsf.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as just about everywhere you can listen to podcasts. Please subscribe to stay up to date on all the content we publish. And if you have any feedback for us, or you just want to say hi, our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, stay safe, and stay healthy.